Welcome to part 4 of this video series where we are reading through and learning how to play Against the Darkmaster. In this video we'll be getting into the spell lists and also the rules for critical damage, which is always fun. Let's get to it. So now, I think we were going next to the spells, the Grimoire, which talks about the different spells. And I don't think we're going to need to go into a lot of detail on these. But as we can see, very much like MERP, which we had set up, where we have different spells. Okay, so this is the Chanting Spells, for instance. And we have Weave, which is like spell level. Because we already heard something about casting something about certain spell weaves and whatever else. So Weave is like spell level. So in Chanting, we've got 10 different spell weaves, which is spell levels. Here is a spell you can cast. The range, the area of effect, and its duration. Here is healing. We do have clotting. I noticed that in most of this we don't have all of the detail about, like, mend nose, or repair ear and stuff like that we had in MERP. So they have simplified that, because obviously we still had bleeding. That was a big deal. But so I can see we have clotting here, but we don't have all of the very meticulous spells about are you able to repair an eye or an ear or a nose or a liver or something like that. That's not in here. Master of animals, master of plants, movement of nature. And then here we have more information on all of those. And this kind of confused me at the beginning. We have basically like a summary table and then a more information area. So this is going back to chanting. So we've got here are the spells involved in chanting, and then here is more information on them. So Chant of Courage. The caster and their allies within the area effect gain a special +10 bonus to their save rolls against fear. Additionally, at the end of each round, they can make a save roll to shake off the effects of any fear-inducing spell or ability affecting them. So here are your warping options. For a +3 weave, increase the radius of the area of effect by 3 meters. Or for +2 weave, increase the duration to 1 round per level of the caster. It cannot be chosen more than once. So those are all those spells. Here are all the healing spells. So for instance, our basic healing spell, range 0 touch. Now see, this does say that it's a touch spell, but we know that there were modifications for range. And so I didn't exactly read that, but I was talking about how much I liked the modifications for range. So maybe this is the base level, which is range 0, and if I'm trying to cast it further than that, then it will be able to do that at a penalty. I didn't see that in here. Area of effect, 1 target, duration permanent, save no. Target living creature recovers up to 10% of their total hit points over the course of the next minute, as if they rested for a full hour. Well, that's a very interesting way to do your basic healing spell, because as we've talked about as other RPGs, that if you have inflationary hit points, then cure light wounds doesn't necessarily always cure a light wound. If the person doesn't have very many hit points and you cure light wounds, it may heal them completely full, which might have been a grievous wound to them. And then as the person gets more and more hit points, cure light wounds might become cure the most superficial, paper cut possible or something. So in this, we are talking about this basic healing spell always healing 10% of their total hit points over the course of the next minute, which does not mean instantly in combat. So that's also very interesting. It's not just an instantaneous combat spell. And then we've got +1 weave, increase the amount of HPs recovered by another 10% and the recovery time by another minute. Or +2 weave, there, the HP recovery is instantaneous. So clotting, we saw there was a whole bunch about bleeding. So area of effect, 1 wound. So in this, I suppose you're also trying to track individual wounds. I don't necessarily remember that from MERP. Now, of course, they're going to deal out individual wounds to you. But in this, I suppose it should be explicit here that you need to track your wounds separately, because if you've got multiple wounds bleeding, this is 1 wound. Reduce the HP lost of target bleeding wound by 1 HP per round. If this brings the bleeding to 0, the wound is considered to be healed, as if treated with a successful healer roll. Okay. Unstun, mend energy, amend injuries, recover suspended animation, regenerate, healing injuries, master of animals, Again, I don't think there's a need to go into much further detail in spells than this, but there are clearly a lot of them here, set up kind of in MERP format. Wizard spells, detection, eldritch hand, eldritch fire, illusion, mind control, detection spells. What are the fire spells? Ignite, cauterization, incandescence, wall of fire, flame shield, firebolt, flaming weapon, fireball, immolation, and firestorm. Yeah, okay. Eldritch hand, moving and affecting inert matter with the sheer power of the mind. Illusions, mind control. Elven grimoire. These look like spells that have to do with just being from that particular race. So much like MERP had different things you might associate with being an elf, not necessarily being an innate power or ability or skill or something like that, but actually something that you spend magic points on. It seems like they're doing the same kind of thing here with elven lore spells, spell song, memory place, lore of words. I mean, a lot we could get into, but they have that same idea held over here. And then we get back to our general tables, and we've already been through weapon tables and gear. Here's the beast attack table. Okay, so that's here. But critical tables. I think that is the last thing in here, so we haven't looked at those yet. So here are impact critical strikes. So remember, we're rolling another D100 roll here, and then we are adding some particular value based on how the severity of the critical. And then here are our critical hits for impact criticals, cut critical strikes, pierce critical strikes. So what do we have here in pierce critical strikes? Graze to shoulder, +3 hits. Strike grazes target side, 1 bleed and target stunned. 100, strike to ear. If the target's wearing a helm, +5 hits, stunned. If the target's unarmored, ear and skull pierce through, target is in a coma and takes 5 bleed. Okay, so there's your example of a situation where it was important to know what area of the body was armored. Strike to lower leg. If the target's armored, torn muscle, +4 hits, -20 activities. If not, severed muscle, +6 hits, -40 activities, stunned. What about over here in this? So this was fire. Minor superficial burns, +8 hits and 1 bleed. Getting down to 100, blast to face. If the target's wearing some sort of head protection, stunned, blind for 3 rounds, +15 hits and 3 bleed. If not, knocked unconscious, 6 bleed, and a horrible scar, -10 to your bearing. Okay. And that's all we got. I suppose that there might be some additional criticals, like maybe cold criticals or ice criticals in the full rules, but this is all that is inside the Quick Start Guide. This has taken a little while to go through, but I am definitely glad that I did. I hope you've enjoyed it, and especially if you're thinking about doing something like this with MERP. I can definitely see reasons to play this. I can see game worlds where I can say this is the kind of thing that we're going to be playing and that will facilitate a certain type of feel that I want at the table. I can definitely find that. I don't think I would use it for Middle-earth. Much like we had the conversation that in my opinion, yes, MERP wasn't quite right for invoking the feeling of Middle-earth. As I'm reading this, I don't think I would use it for Middle-earth either. I would use a different system. But I can definitely see certain games where I'm trying to invoke a certain type of feel where I definitely would use this. And so we may talk about that more in other videos. But for now, I think it's time to wrap up. Thank you so much for being with me. If you've enjoyed this video, please click like, subscribe, all of that, but really please do go back to my YouTube channel. I've got over 100 videos there already on tabletop games and board games in the fantasy genre. If you've enjoyed this video, you may enjoy many of them as well, and I look forward to seeing you for all of those videos and many more to come. Later.